Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I have a flip through of my latest illustrated journal. This is a visual diary that I made last month when I was at a week-long ink making workshop in Italy. So part of this flip through is going to be a little bit of armchair travel, but mainly I'm going to talk about how and why pages got made the way they got made, because I'm hoping that this will inspire you, give you some ideas for working in your own pages, in keeping your own illustrated journal. If you like journal arts, if you like book and paper arts, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications. And you will have more of them in your life. Let's go look at pages. I made this book myself by hand, just for this trip. Normally in my illustrated journals, they go in store-bought sketchbooks. But I knew that this trip was going to be the trip and the workshop of a lifetime. So I wanted to make a book just for this week. And if you'd like to learn how to make your own blank sketchbook, it's quick, it's easy, and it's super cheap. And there's a link to a video showing how to do that in the text box below this video. One thing that I did in this journal that I didn't used to do is I am using it as part diary, part art journal. It used to be it was just, stuff that had to do with my trip or my days. But then I realized I can put anything in my book I want. So when I was assembling this handmade book, I got some magazine pages from decorating magazines and then blank papers, text, and other pieces. And they just all went in here. So we start with some notes about the workshop itself and some pretty pictures. Receipts are great memories. I don't know how long they'll last. These do tend to fade. They will last longer than me, so that's good enough. There were several churches, even though this was a little town, Montefiascone. It had several old churches. And so I was drawing in, this was a baptismal font in stone. It had this little guy, I guess he's like a sheep or a ram. I don't draw very good sheep, but I tried. And then that's a detail of what it looked like up close, with some mark making for decoration. Needless to say, we did a lot of swatching, or as our instructor called it, painting out the colors to see how they acted on paper. One day we did yellows, one day we did reds, then blues, and so on. And another thing that we did was we used a color or a pigment in different media. So this is vermilion in egg yolk. This is vermilion in egg white. So you can see that here's gum arabic. So you can see that you have the same pigments, but different reactions in different media. That was fun to learn about. This is more of an art journal page, but it is actually using a brochure that I found in one of the churches just sitting on the pew. So I tore it up and made some collage and added some mark making color. And this is what the whole trip felt like for me. Beautiful, old, mysterious. On a less lofty note, I love drawing about what I pack and take with me and what I wear. Think of this. If you had a book like this that, say, your great-grandmother made, or a friend or even a stranger, and this book came to you, wouldn't it be a blast to see what she drew and wrote about her clothes, what she chose, what she liked to wear, and why. So I always try to add that in my books. Don't forget to add maps. If you're not careful, you will forget your route. And it doesn't have to be on a travel. I also make these in my own backyard where I like to walk and visit. This was the middle of town. There was a fountain. This is the cafe where we had coffee. Walk, 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 walk. One of the churches. And this is the apartment I stayed in. Pizza. Big outdoor pizza place. And then walk, 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 walk. Church. Walk, 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 walk. Workshop. Add a map. This is more of an art journal, kind of an entry. This isn't an actual photo. It's a page from a magazine. But when I was making this book, I bound it in because it just looked, again, romantic and mysterious and felt like what I hoped Montefiascone was going to look like. I wasn't wrong. This handwritten text. This is in our classroom. And this is the view that I looked at every single day. Just a reminder that a great thing to add to your books is what's right in front of you. Your table, your coffee table, your desk. Because those are the details that make up your days and your life. I always wanted to go through that door to see what was on the other side. And I forgot. I'm often asked, do you finish the book in one go? Nah, not really. What I do is I add little notes here and there to remind me of things that I want to add. Then I come home, I print up some photos, and then I use those notes and photos as prompts. And when I get home, I spend about a week or 10 days putting it all together. Mixing ink. And, hey, this is meta. Here is the notebook that I'm showing you right now. This is my sketchbook. I take it everywhere. In one of the several churches were a lot of carvings. This church was from the 10th century, and it had a lot of columns, and these are called capitals, the carvings at the top of columns. Always remember to look up in an old church. Up, up, up. I don't know what the dog symbolized, but he was cute. So I sat and drew him. I knew I was going to write about the weather, but that actually is an important part of the day. And since it was 97, 99 degrees, yikes. Just give me a big old sun there. Okay, this guy had nothing to do with my trip except this. When I am traveling and walking around with my blank book and my portable art kit that I take with me everywhere, I also like to stuff in a few bibs and bobs from things that I've torn out of magazines that I want to draw and play with. This way, if I get stranded or delayed, heaven knows you do, I just pull these out, I just jam them in the back of my book, and now I've got this little cheat sheets to play with. And I did, so I did. So the only thing this guy has to do with my trip is that he kept me company when I was delayed. Nothing wrong with that. These are some of the ochres, yellow, red, Tuscan. This is a pocket that I made from a bill. I bound it in. Half of it's here, half's on the other side. And then I could just put little things. A business card of one of my classmates. some more swatches. This is a ticket stub, and I just glue that down for a little bit of prettiness. This is another brochure that I found in a church, and I tore it and used her as a focal point. And then every day when we finished making inks and pigments, there was a bunch left over, and it was just going to get cleaned up and thrown out. So I used it for mark making and to make pages. So it's kind of a souvenir and kind of not wasting stuff. These were pages more painting through and seeing how things worked on paper. And so rather than glue them in, I always carry some bulldog clips with me. And you can clip in odd bits of paper. This was a day when we worked just on blacks. Willow charcoal, oak gall, different kinds of black pigments. And then this was some willow charcoal, and I grabbed that to make a drawing with. So got to see how they work, then you also get a page out of it. One of my favorite free art supplies are wrappings and bags. And this was in Montefiascone. There was a little fruit shop that had fresh figs and cherries. And pizza. Lots and lots of pizza. When I went to the supermarket to buy stuff to make picnics with, on the ground this shopping list. It's handwritten. It's somebody's shopping list. It's a story of a day. It's in Italian. And I love lists. So I couldn't just leave it there. I put that in. It's a story and a page. And I glued it to the other side of that envelope. And again, I found some small cards. You can see them through the cellophane envelope, and then you can put them in so you can always find them later. So bind in some pockets. This is the view from the cafe in the square where I had coffee a lot. And it was just the view. There are a lot of red and orange ochre on the buildings, old architecture. It was a beautiful place, and if I'm sitting at a table, I'm pulling out my sketchbook and drawing it. These are some ruins, and I am not able, it's not in my skill set to draw an entire big old ruined church building. I'm not that good at architecture. But here's something, if you are the same, here's something that you can do. Here's a hack, a tip. Break it down into bite-sized pieces. That's what I've done here. I just took this page that was in another sketchbook, and then I drew it squares that I could handle. And I looked at my ruins, and I picked out just that much, a bite-sized little glimpse. And that's all that went in there. Just this little glimpse that almost looks abstract with no context. But putting them together, they're fun, and it brings back the memory, and it's what I could handle. So if there's something big, don't be overwhelmed. Break it into little baby pieces. You got this. More maps. This was from a free brochure at the Tourist Information Center. And this is where the workshop is. This is the lake. Over this lake, we had picnics. Add maps. The workshop was being held in a seminary. I almost said cemetery. Seminary. And in the seminary was a library, and it was full of books and parchments from the 1400s, 1500s, and on. Some of the books were bound in what's called a limp vellum binding, almost wrapping it rather than sewing it. And I am going to be looking up limp vellum bindings and trying to do a version of it, not with vellum or animal, but paper. And I'm going to see if I can get it into a video here, so stay tuned for that. Also clipping things in that won't glue in. They don't fit. But I definitely want to keep them in the book. La Via Francigena is a pilgrimage trail that goes all through Italy. And it starts in France and it goes to Rome. I would like to do this maybe. And these are all the stories about all the stops that you would go on if you were doing this pilgrimage trail. So maybe someday. In the meantime, just clipping that in makes a page, and it's good stuff, good information. This is a photograph of the lake. I didn't go down to the lake, but we had picnics on the hill over it, and it was lovely. Notes about picnics, notes about food and whatnot. So this is actually more of a diary. One of the churches was called San Flaviano, and it was started in the 10th, 11th century. And inside it was full of extraordinary frescoes from the 13th century. They're peeling, and you could see the stonework underneath, but then the color was still just extraordinary. And so I sat there a lot. And while I was sitting, I sketched some broken column pedestals with lions. And again, I just did some drizzling with some of the leftover ink that was in the classroom. It kind of made a lot of itself. I don't care. The seminary itself has suffered a lot of damage and is being restored. This is the ceiling of the room in the classroom where we were. And let's see. This is all carved wood. And all of this beautiful, mysterious patterns, those are coming from water damage over the decades, over hundreds of years. And it just makes this lovely, mysterious, evocative pattern that was right over my head. Always remember to look up. And I am going to be printing this up and putting it in some art journals to come. Some more notes, diary taking. It's a train ticket for my travel home. Train tickets are fun, and they definitely bring back they grab the memory for you. This is a teeny tiny copy of my certificate saying that I have successfully completed recreating the medieval palette. One of the days we did work on gilding, on making illuminated initials and whatnot for scribing, script work. I was not very good at it. But I kind of played around with the leftover bits of gold and gilt anyway, and it did make a nice page, a stub. And then finally, this is a photograph of a room in the seminary. And I love how it's a liminal place. It seems like a threshold between worlds. One that I'm familiar with and one that I used to be familiar with, but I can't quite grab it anymore. That's what a liminal place is. And that's what I've found in this building. Basta. That is it. In the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing some more videos about diary keeping, both written and visual. If there is anything that you would like me to touch on, that you would like to know more about, have questions about, in diary keeping, in journal keeping, please let me know in the comments below, and I will try to get to those and include them in the videos that are coming up. If you have any other feedback or any other questions, please also put that in the comments below, and we can all read them and compare notes. Until later, get up and go make something.